At 8:30. We might give a few more minutes for everyone to log in, but thank you for joining us. I see we have a few people already. It's amazing. We're very excited. Everyone, if you have a tzedakah box, please bring it. We will all give tzedakah together. I put in the chat box a YouTube link in case we get full, so we can pass on to friends. For those of you who asked me before, if you want to know how to change your name on the screen, usually if you look on the top under your name, you're able to change it. If you tap, there's like 3 dots and you can change the name of the person. Let me see if I can. Right next to your name, there's like under participants, if you go under participants, right, and you see your name, next to your name, there's like a little camera. If you scroll on that camera, it shows little 3 dots. If you press on it, it gives you to rename, and that's how you can rename yourself. Just extra information. It's 8:30, but I'm going to give just a few moments for everyone to log in. So let's hope to start in the next 2-3 minutes. Hi, everyone, and welcome. We're going to give a few minutes for everyone to log in before we start. If you feel comfortable, please put your camera on. It will be nice to say hi to you. If you don't feel comfortable, that's okay too. We're happy to have everyone on the Zoom. I also, for those of you who just logged in, I posted a YouTube link on the chat. If you want to pass it on to friends that might log in later, if we get full, they have an option to go on YouTube. Hi, everyone, and welcome. We're going to start in a few minutes. We're just letting everyone log in and giving those few extra minutes for the login time. We're going to start with tzedakah. So if you have a tzedakah box next to you and get a few coins, we would love to give tzedakah together. And then after that, we will go to the Rebbe's Kapitel and we will start our program. Chavi, before I start record, you can put the Rebbe's Kapitel on the screen. Thank you. Okay, everyone, welcome to Powerful Waters. This is our mikvah event that we do a few times a year. We have amazing speakers tonight. We're also dedicating our class tonight to a very special woman. I will start with tzedakah, and then we will go from there. If you have a few coins and can give tzedakah with us, we would love that. Gdola tzedakah shemekarevet et hageula. So if you don't have it, we've done it for you. I'm going to start with the Rebbe's kapitel. כ"ב, שיר המעלות לדוד, שמחתי באומרים לי, בית אדוני נלך. עומדות היו רגלינו בשערייך ירושלים, ירושלים הבנויה, כעיר שחוברה לה יחדיו, ששם עלו שבטים שבטיה. עדות לישראל להודות לשם אדוני, כי שמה ישבו כיסאות למשפט, כיסאות לבית דוד. שאלו שלום ירושלים, ישליו אוהבייך. יהי שלום בחילך, שלווה בארבונותייך. למען אחי ורעי, אדברה נא שלום בך. למען בית אדוני אלוהינו, אבקשה טוב לך. Okay, everyone. So tonight we are gathered together. It's a bittersweet time for us. Our speaker, Shterna Althaus, is a very special speaker that always helps us when we do the mikvah Zooms with Sarah Karmely, and she lost her mother-in-law, Miriam Althaus, who was a very, very, very special individual, Alea Shalom. I did not know much about her until today. We lost her this Shabbos. She was a shlucha, a kala teacher, a mother, a grandmother, a mashpia, and so many other titles that we don't know about. Just such a great person. We are going to share with you a short video from Torah Cafe that Shternie shared with us today, so we can get an idea a little bit, get a glance of her personality and her just beautiful, the beautiful person that she was. So if you give us a minute, we're going to share the video, and in the chat box, we're also going to share an article and another interview that Shterna Althaus did with her mother-in-law, and they were discussing, it was like about mikvah. So it was a very, it's connected to our topic. So give us a minute. We're going to share the first video from Torah Cafe, which is short. Welcome to everyone who just logged in. It's so nice to see a nice full screen. We would love to see your face if you can show it to us, but if not, we're happy as well. We're sharing a video from Miriam Althaus where we are dedicating our class tonight to her.
The Rebbe has told us that there are 2 points in educating our children. One is to educate them as far as their knowledge is concerned, and the second point, character education, to teach them how to live a menschliche life. And he has emphasized that the second aspect is much more important. Now, how do we do this? Through care, sensitivity, love, and positive reinforcement to our children. As I heard from a very wise man recently, that children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So our children, both as parents and as mechanchim, as educators, have to feel that we care about them, that we love them, and that we are interested in them as a human being. Sometimes a kind gesture or a word can change the life of a person or of a child. And there's a story told of a Rosh Yeshiva who had a very difficult bocher in his yeshiva, and finally he was forced to expel him. But he escorted him to the gate, and he said, now that I'm no longer your principal, I'm going to take you to my home. This student was from out of town. He said, I'm going to take you to my home and you will live with me. And he treated him just as a child. Now, years later, that yeshiva was in dire financial difficulties, and this child had grown up to be quite a successful businessman, and he gave a substantial amount of tzedakah to that yeshiva because the actions of the principal had changed his life virtually. Now we know the well-known saying, Chanoch lanar al pi darko, gam ki yaskin lo yasu mimeno. Every child is unique. They have unique characteristics, unique personality traits, and unique talents. And we don't compare one child to another, neither as parents nor as educators in school. Each one has to be treated as an individual. Now, we have to build their self-esteem, encourage them in the qualities in which they are proficient in, and show them and encourage them, telling them how good they are. We have the story of the Ben Sorer Umareh, the rebellious child in the Chumash. And it says, V'lo shama l'kol aviv u'l'kol imo. He did not hearken to the voice of his mother or the voice of his father. And one of the commentators say, why did he turn out to be a rebellious child? Because he heard two voices. The mother's voice saying one thing and the father's voice saying another thing. And from this we learn there must be teamwork, there must be unity between the husband and wife and between the parents and the school. The child must hear one voice, agreement in the principles of education. Now, I'd just like to read a poem, if I may, because we have to set an example for our children. And very often we tell our children to do one thing, and yet we ourselves are doing another. Just to give examples, father tells a child, don't talk during davening, and then child sees the father going out to have a chat during Kriyas HaTorah. Or other examples, I don't want to go into the negativity of it. But this poem, which is written by a child, shows how children learn by example. Actually, my husband had a desk calendar many years ago, and it said, the children of today, their ears are deaf to advice, but their eyes are open to example. And this is a very beautiful poem that illustrates this. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you hang my first painting on the refrigerator, and I immediately wanted to paint another one. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you feed a stray cat, and I learned that it was good to be kind to animals. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you make my favourite cake for me, and I learned that little things can be special in life. When you thought I wasn't looking, I heard you say a prayer, and I knew there is a God I could always talk to, and I learned to trust in God. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you make a meal and take it to a friend who was sick, and I learned that we have to help take care of each other. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you give of your time and money to help people who had nothing, and I learned that those who have something should give to those who don't. When you thought I wasn't looking, I felt you kiss me goodnight, and I felt loved and safe. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you take care of our house and everyone in it, and I learned that we have to take care of what we are given. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw how you handled your responsibilities, and even when you didn't feel good, and I learned that I would have to be responsible when I grow up. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw tears come from your eyes, and I learned that sometimes things hurt, but it's all right to cry. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw that you cared, and I wanted to be everything that I could be. When you thought I wasn't looking, I learned most of life's lessons that I need to know to be a good and productive person when I grow up. When you thought I wasn't looking, I looked at you and wanted to say, thanks for all the things I saw when you thought I wasn't looking. I personally think that this is a beautiful, beautiful example of how a child learns by example rather than by preaching. So we have to teach our children to be good people, to live good lives, to make a dirab tachtonim here for Hashem and do all the right things. In fact, the Rebbe Rashab tells us that a father is obligated to think about the chinuch of his children for half an hour every day, just as he's obligated to put on tefillin. Now, the Rebbe also said that all educational efforts are basically meaningless unless they are built on a solid foundation of good character. And this may involve small docha v'yamin mekarevet. We need a combination of love and discipline. And the child must feel that we are disciplining them because of our love for them, both at home and at school. Now we have the teaching in the Chumash, Ha'adam hu etz hasadeh, that the man is the tree of the field. And the Rebbe has explained that to mean that a gash in a mature tree or a torn branch doesn't make too much of a difference. But the slightest nick in a little seed results in irrevocable damage. And from this we learn what we are also taught in Pirkei Avot, that halomed yeled lemahu domeh, someone who teaches a young child, to what is he compared? Lidyok tuva al niyar chadash, to ink that is written on clean paper. We have to start when the children are young, and that way we hopefully, with Siyata Dishmaya, with God's help, achieve our aims. And there's a story of a mother that came to a lecture once by a rabbi, and who was speaking on education, and she asked when should she start with her child, and the rabbi asked, how old is your child? And she said 12 years old, and he said, you're 12 years too late. So that's an important lesson for us. Another interesting point is that we know when the women brought their donations to the Mishkan, there were 4 things that are mentioned, and Ibn Ezra describes them as nose rings, earrings, bracelets and finger rings. And it's interesting that we can learn some things about parenting from them. The earrings, parents must listen to their children, and also obviously listen to the Torah's instructions as to how to educate their children. Nose rings, parents and children must smell out who their child's friends are, and if they are beneficial to them, if they are good people. Finger rings to point them in the right direction, obviously, gently and convincingly. And bracelets, we have to be strong-armed in order to point them in the right direction and to give them the right tools for that. To end off, the Gemara says that he who guides his sons and daughters in the right way, to him does the verse apply, and you know that there is peace in your tent. As I said before, we need Siyata Dishmaya after making all our own hishtadlus, our efforts, and then we will be able to say to Hashem, Ru'u banim shegidalnu, see the children that we have raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Shternie, for sharing this video with us. This was remarkable. I just couldn't hold my tears. It's really, wow. So for all of you that joined us tonight and just joined us before the video, you know what we're doing tonight. But for those who just joined now, we have dedicated this class tonight to Miriam Althaus, Alea Shalom. And we just saw a video from Torah Cafe about her talking about education of children. And just from her approach and her stories, we can definitely understand already what kind of person she was, and the patience and love that she had towards children and towards people in general. So to start our class tonight, we're going to start with our first speaker, a very dear friend, Shterna Althaus, who's helped me this year and Sarah Karmely together to promote family purity. And Shternie is a marriage, a dating, and intimacy counselor. She's a Kala teacher. She's a lecturer, and she's also mikvah.org certified. So Shternie, with no further ado, please take the floor.
Thank you so much, Shelley. Just thumbs up if the sound is good. All the way from down under. Fantastic. I want to thank Shelley from the bottom of my heart for pushing me to still do this talk today. When we originally planned today, we had no idea that we would be sitting in the week of Shiva of my mother-in-law. She just passed on Shabbos Nachamu. It is hard for me to do this, but I want to do this in her schus And she started this whole concept of teaching Kalas 56 years ago when Rabbi Groner, alav shalom, originally from New York and then Melbourne, the representative as a shliach, asked her to teach her first Kala. And she was scared. And she asked also Rabbi Arel Sarabransky, what should she do? And Rabbi Arel said to her, people who don't do anything have nothing to fear. It's the people that do things, and you should definitely do it. And to date, she has taught hundreds, if not thousands of Kalas. Wherever we turn, somebody says, your mother-in-law taught me. Oh, your name is Althaus. Your mother-in-law taught me. And we're talking about great-grandmothers. So I want to dedicate today to her honor and to thank everybody who's on. I see a lot of dear friends from Sydney, from New York, all over the world. And I just want to thank everyone for being here for her schus. This should be a schus for Miriam Bas Eliyahu. Her neshama should have an aliyah, and the schusim of all the kalas that she taught should stand before Hashem and beg for Mashiach. And Shelley, really, this is actually a big nechama, and I'm glad that we pushed to have it today and not to postpone. And to thank as well Sarah Karmely for being, I think you're the other icon of a Kala teacher to me, right? When I was getting married, you were the icon Kala teacher in Crown Heights, together with Mrs. Shalamis Pape, my teacher, may she be gesund, and also my mother-in-law. So just a little introduction. My mother-in-law was first my teacher. I was sent, Rabbi Groner sent 3 shluchot from Beis Rivka, and I came to Melbourne, and I said, I don't know anyone here. I said to my principal, Rebbetzin Chandler Tachtel, I don't know anyone. And she said, don't worry, there's a very nice lady, Mrs. Miriam Althaus. I know her and I'll make a connection. Little did I know, as student and teacher, we would bond so much. I took all of her work with me and went with my friend Hani Light and others to Beis Chana in Minnesota, retaught all her stuff. And I said, I love her information. It's so empowering. She came from a positive point of view, as you heard in the video, built up the women's role, taught us about Akeres HaBayis. She gave us Bayis Yehudi classes in Chana, but she also taught in Beis Rivka. She taught in Adas. She taught in Mount Scopus. She taught in Merkaz Seminary. She taught for people of all stripes and backgrounds. And in the recent years, also teaching for conversion classes, all the teachers of the Taras Mishpacha. She was the head teacher to teach Taras Mishpacha to all the girls who were converting. So one thing I want to mention, my mother-in-law always talked about Akeres HaBayis being the Ikar HaBayis. You are the mainstay of the home. And as much as our world has pushed women to have a career and to go out in the world, she always reminded us that the main thing, the Rebbe always said, it's Ikar HaBayis. You are the mainstay of the home. And let me tell you, without her here with us, you can see the matriarch, the presence that she's obviously with us and we feel her, but she was holding the glue together. She was the glue of our family. All matriarchs, all mothers have such a power. And the Rebbe always built up the role of the woman, as you heard in her talk about the jewelry. And I believe it was the Friedrich Rebbe who said the nose ring, the earring, and the finger ring is a way of educating children. So I just wanted to take a moment to tell you that she taught for 56 years. She never took 1 cent for teaching Kalas in 56 years. She never charged Beth Rivka or Al Chana or any of the places she taught because she felt it was her privilege and her duty to give back for the Rebbe Shlichus. When she went to the Rebbe for Yechidus with my father-in-law in 1974, they said to the Rebbe that they would like to go to Eretz Yisrael. And the Rebbe asked them, plutzlung, like suddenly you want to go? And they said, yes, this is our dream. And now we are able to afford to go. The Rebbe said, it's well known, the proverb, the saying of the Rebbe Tzemach Tzedek, Machta Eretz Yisrael. You have to make where you are Eretz Yisrael. And especially since the previous Rebbe sent you, he sent 6 families to Melbourne in 1949. You can't move. You have to stay there. And let me tell you, there's a piece of Eretz Yisrael in Melbourne from her and all over the world, because she brought the Torah learning from her seminary in Eretz Yisrael to the masses. She taught, she learned nonstop. Her biggest nachas was watching, learning Sichas, the Lakota Sichas project every single week. Rabbi Yossi Jacobson, Ari Shishler, and all her people that she would learn from. And I must say that this is why I got into this vocation to begin with. In 1995, I moved to Australia. I was living in Sydney on Shlichus, and my mother-in-law called me up. Hi, Shternie, would you like to teach a Kala? She's really supposed to be in Melbourne, but she's going to be in Sydney, and I can't do it. There was no Skype. There was no Zoom. There was no WhatsApp. There was no FaceTime. I said, really, Shviger? I'm too scared. I cannot. do this. I'm afraid of the achrayus. And she shared with me what I told you about Rabbi Aaron Sarbransky, who told her, it's the people who don't do anything that don't have to be fair. You have to do it. It came to you. And I asked her for notes, what to say, what to do. And that was the first prototype of what I would use to teach Kalas. And I'm going to share some inspirational stories of brides that I taught over the last 28 years in her schus, because she pushed me. We also put in the link interview that I did with her in 2021. She was from the very first women to put on a sheitel in Australia. In fact, on her way to seminary, when she was on the plane, my shver, so Sein Gesund, was on the plane taking his brother to Krachabad for yeshiva. And she saw a man with a yarmulke. And she said it was so unusual to see a man with a yarmulke in those days that she said, "Ooh, I would love to marry a man like that." And then after seminary, when she came back, she went with her mother, who was not well, to a guest house. In those days, they had, like, you know, in the Catskills, but in Australia, it was called chadva, a guest house. And she met him there. And my aunt, actually, she should have a refuah shlema, Mashaluba Bashena. She's Mrs. Budno, remembers them meeting and dating, and they got engaged from Rosh Hashanah to Sukkot. And the question my father-in-law said, "Would you wear a sheitel?" And she said, "Absolutely, yes." And you'll hear into the interview, she said, he could have asked me anything, and I would have done it for him. But she did put on a sheitel, and she was the first one. There were no sheitel machers here. They had to go to a professional wig maker. And they only had blonde and red sheitels, so she had to have it dyed. I guess it was the first custom-made sheitel from scratch from a theater company, and that was how she started. And her friend said to her, "Miriam, if you could do it, I could do it." Her friend was wearing a pillbox, and that was how the trend started. So actually, we have to give credit to Mrs. Asyanu, Aleha Shalom. She was the first. The Rebbe asked her to, and the Rebbe gave her brachas. And then my mother-in-law, who was 10 years younger than her, was from the next group of women to put on the sheitel first and spread the trend. So I wanted to share some stories, one of them being that my mother-in-law took an 80-year-old bride to the chuppah. There was an 80-year-old woman going to get married, and it was her dream to marry this man properly, and she had to go to the mikvah, and my mother-in-law was her teacher. And I remember at the time thinking, Shviger, that is so brave. And she said, "Look at this woman. She's 80 years old. She wants to go to the mikvah." And she took her with the same pride that she would take a 20-year-old bride. It was just beautiful. She was so blown away by this woman. And she taught with dedication for 56 years. So one of the things I wanted to share is that she gave me a very beautiful tip. And if anyone teaches a kala or who has any influence on a kala, offer to take the mother of the bride to go to the mikvah. It may be her one last time to go to the mikvah, but through going to that mikvah, the woman who has never gone before can now rectify, and the Rebbe says retroactively correct and elevate all the neshamas born to her already, so that her own kala, daughter, walking to the chuppah, mother and daughter arm in arm, are both pure and elevated, and all the neshamas going in such a holy way. Because of that, I have suggested it to many brides, and we have a big South African denomination, and many of them did learn about mikvah in South Africa, but sometimes it may have slipped through emigration, and they agreed to go one last time, and that has brought so much nechama. And they have commented, the mother, how powerful it was to go as well to the mikvah. So that's a point that my mother always said. And she also said, you can't change the wind, but you can adjust the sails. Like to look at life with a positive perspective. You can only try your best. Sometimes we tell someone, we give them all the tools to do the right thing, but at the time they're not listening. But you never know years later. Like I used to watch her do Shachris, Mincha, Ma'ariv, Chitas, Rambam, and I was a mother with little kids. I'm like, I could never do that, let alone even if I could manage a Shemona Esrei. But, you know, as we grow into our roles in different stages, I'm like, okay, now I do this and now I can do that. And I watched how she did the whole gamut. She even asked Reb Aaron Sarbransky, should she do Ma'ariv? And he said, why not? She said, well, women don't normally do Ma'ariv. He said, why not? And so she did Shachris, Mincha, and Ma'ariv every single day, including learning, teaching, and having time to speak to all people about their issues. I just wanted to tell you the power of the brachas of going to the mikveh, how important it is. We know the story, a well-known story. There was a lady in Montreal who had to go to the mikveh, and everything that could go wrong on that night did go wrong. The boiler was broken. There was a blizzard. She wasn't feeling great. The car broke down. And her husband said to her, darling, you can go tomorrow night. It's okay. And she said, no, I want to go tonight. And she pushed herself and she went. And under very cold Montreal weather, blizzard and broken down heater, and the mikveh was cold. And that night she conceived a child. That child was born, thank God, healthy. And her older child, older daughter, was born healthy, but she developed Rahman al-Lisan leukemia. And of the whole world, the match that came back was from that new baby. And the match, the donor, came from that daughter that was born to her from the beautiful experience of Mesiras Nefesh that she had going to the mikveh that night. Another story I heard, the Rebbe was looking at somebody's family, and the Rebbe said, "What's special about this child?" The Rebbe asked a woman in Yechidus about the picture of her family, and she said, "Oh, he's like everybody else." The Rebbe said, "No, what's special?" And the lady thought back, and she said, "Yes, on the night of his conception, it was a very difficult time to go to the mikveh, and I pushed myself anyway." And the Rebbe said, "You could see it on the neshama of the child." So there are many stories like that where we think we're just doing our regular everyday. But let me tell you, ladies, in COVID, we were those women breaking ice in Russia. There were people who couldn't go to the mikveh because they had COVID. There were people who had to jump into a beach, ocean, or mikvahs were closed or had to go under stealth of night. And there were very, very big challenges. And our women, the Nashim Tzedkanios, we women are the women who are the same reincarnation on the shamas of the women in Mitzrayim who had Mesiras Nefesh to do what they had to. And one thing that I found, my mother-in-law taught Kalas for over 50 years. This week in the Parsha, we read that Miriam Hanaviah had a well. That well was the mikvah for women. It lasted 40 years. And like the rabbi said at her funeral, he said, Miriam Hanaviah had a well for 40 years, but Miriam Althaus had it for 50 years. And I thought that was so powerful. Her well of Torah, her well of teaching, this is the schus to teach. So anybody could, if you can't teach it, you can suggest and refer to a rebbitzin. You can go to mikvah.org and look up Kala teachers. There are thousands of teachers from all over the world. And if you ever go on vacation and you can't find a mikvah, go to mikvah.org directory, find a mikvah. We had a bride that I had to send to the mikvah. She was going to Finland and Santorini. Well, Finland had a mikvah, but Santorini didn't. And it happened to be she could not change her itinerary. And she had to go in a beach in Santorini. And this bride was from a very secular background, and she pushed herself and she went. And it was the most amazing experience. There are women who had to go through great dire challenges to get to mikvah. Just in recent years, shluchot around the world. One of my good friends had to travel 14 hours to get to a mikvah by plane. Another friend had to go 2 hours by plane every single month, get visa, everything, and then come back another 2 hours on a plane. Baruch Hashem, today in that city, they have a mikvah. There are women today that are going through challenges, fertility challenges, and they have to be found in other parts of the world or other cities, obviously under rabbinic supervision and help, that are going through difficulties, and they're pushing themselves to go to mikvah. There are women that are brides that wouldn't necessarily even care to have a mikvah, but because the rabbi sends them. And I'll give you a story about a woman who came to me, an Israeli lady. She said, "Listen, I want to come to you. I need you to sign a paper. I'll pay you. Just sign the paper that I spoke to you, because the Rabbanut will not marry me unless I get a signature." I said, "Listen, I'm really, really sorry. It doesn't work that way. You have to come. We have to learn. I can do it in an express way, like we could do it all at once for a few hours and try and give it to you, but I cannot sign something that's dishonest." She goes, "Well, why can't you? I don't even believe in it anyway. I'm just doing this for the Rabbanut. Please, I'll pay you whatever you want." I said, "I am sorry. I cannot do that. This is just against all ethics, and this is wrong." I said, "Please come. Just come for a short time, and let's see how it goes." And at the beginning of the lesson, we started talking about a Jewish chuppah, and we were talking more and more about the connection, about the neshamas that come to a chuppah, 3 generations from each side of the chassan and kala coming under the chuppah. And as we're getting on the lesson, I see tears falling down this lady's eyes. I'm like, oh my goodness. Wow. What did I say? Did I say something wrong? Did I say something right? And she goes, "I came here kicking and screaming, but tell me more, tell me more. This is what I'm missing." And in the end, from the woman being not interested to come to learn about mikvah, she ended up going with all Mesiras Nefesh and B'Kedusha V'Tara. We never know. We just have to ask. We just have to offer. It could be the hairdresser. I once sat in a hairdresser's chair, and I thought, this is my chance. I better say something, but I couldn't find the right words, because the hairdresser was an ex-Beis Yaakov girl who came from a very religious home and left everything behind. And I casually asked her, I won't say her name, let's call her Dina. "Dina, is there any mitzvahs that you still keep? I know that things have been challenging and no longer keeping. She said, there's one mitzvah that I keep. I said, what is that? To my surprise, she said, and I quote, I keep Nagelwasser. I said, you keep Nagelwasser? Why do you keep Nagelwasser? She said, because I like the concept of washing off yesterday's negative energy and starting the day fresh. And I thought, wow, I never thought of it that way. That's so beautiful. But this was my in. I said, Dina, I know you got married recently, and I know that you talked about wanting to have a child. Would you ever consider going to the mikvah? It's washing away all the negative energy, and it's going to bring you kedusha and bring a child in tahara. And she said to me, funny you should ask. My mother in Borough Park asked me the same question. I'm thinking about it, but I don't really know who to talk to about it. I said, I'll do it. I'll learn with you. I'll give you the basics. And a few months later, I got a phone call from the mikvah lady saying, Dina came to the mikvah, and just so you know, she's pregnant. And I was so relieved. I was so afraid to open my mouth on the chair. But when people are doing something, it's like more casual, you could bring it up. Or if you're in a car, like you're both looking forward, you could say whatever you want. The other person, you can't see their expression. That's how I felt. I'm like, now is my chance. We all go for appointments, whether it's a nurse, whether it's a doctor, whether it's for good things, whether it's a hairdresser, whether it's a nail appointment, whether it's, a professional. We can all help other people. We have the secret. We have the secret of the powerful waters. Why don't we want to offer it to our friends? What we're afraid they'll reject us? That's a very real fear, but think of the bigger picture. People want to know this. Brides want to know this. And I always bring the groom for the first 1 or 2 lessons so he could be in on it. Because if he is in, they have a buy-in, then the bride will be in. And oftentimes the groom will be more inspired than the bride. And I've seen a groom or two with a tear in his eye. So you never know. I'm talking about secular couples, but even with a frum chas and kala, we all know people that learned, maybe they got pregnant right away, they forgot the halachas. The Rebbe said to have a chazara every single year. In Sydney, we have an annual review every single year, and I cannot tell you how many hundreds of girls have been helped because we have an Ask the Rabbi session, and they ask deep and personal questions. And sometimes one little slight change, and they're able to get pregnant easier, find out fertility information, find out reasons why they're having trouble getting to the mikveh sooner. There's so much information that we now have. We must give the gift of the powerful waters, share it, tell people who the local kala teachers are, tell them the secret, inspire them, send them to mikvah.org. And I will tell you that we've had stories that are so inspiring. My mother-in-law, just 3 weeks ago, a lady called her up and said, Miriam, would you please do a chazara with me? You taught me for my kala classes, but I just had a baby. And I haven't kept it for a few months because I didn't need to keep it, but because I just had a baby, I want to do a chazara. And my mother-in-law said yes. On that day that she was supposed to teach this lady, unfortunately, she had to go to the hospital. She wasn't well. And she refused to go to the hospital until she taught this kala. And her daughter said, Mom, you need to go to hospital. We will find another teacher. And Baruch Hashem, she went and we found another teacher. She gave us her passcode. We got into her phone. We found the lady. We got her a teacher. And my mother-in-law went knowing that this lady got her kala review. But that is her dedication. She refused to go to hospital until she knew that this lady had a teacher. The history of mikvah is so important. We know Adam and Chava had a mikvah. We know a Kohen Gadol went 5 times to the mikvah. We know people who convert to Judaism go to mikvah. We know that in the time of the temple, anybody who was in touch with something that is not living, the opposite of life, had to go to the mikvah. Today, women, after their menstrual cycle, go to the mikvah, women of menstruation years, in other words, before menopause. And if a woman did not have a chance before menopause to go one last time, they can go and, like I said before, retroactively can go one last time to elevate and help those neshamas that were previous born, as the Rebbe said. The power of the bracha in the mikvah. A lot of people don't know because if they got married, say in COVID, and it was a chick-chock mikvah, but the power of the mikvah inside the water, the ladies today who take the kalas to, or any woman, to the mikvah, the shomeret, the lady who is there, will turn around and give the woman an opportunity. Don't forget the opportunity of praying for yourself, for your loved ones, for your family, for your children. This has so much power. The bracha in the mikvah. There are 3 times the Rebbe tells us that mikvah, challah, and candlelighting, those are the 3 mitzvahs of a woman. Those are the times that we have a special Eis Ratzon, direct line to Hashem. And that's why a challah bakes, women daven at when they take the challah off, when they make the bracha, they daven. When we light Shabbos candles, we daven. And when a woman is in the mikvah, she has a moment to daven one-on-one with Hashem in her absolute, the way she was born, in the way she stands there and davens. She's back to her original way when she was born in her mother's womb. She's surrounded by the waters. So a woman doesn't just leave behind her makeup, she also leaves her emotional issues behind. When she goes into the mikveh, it's a cleansing, it's a renewal, it's a rebirth. And she can come back in a more positive frame of mind, and leaving all the stress in the mikveh waters, coming at it in a more positive frame of mind to her husband, and to try and make this mikveh a special evening so that she can carry forward this beautiful wedding mikveh that she knows about for the future. So if someone has gone just for their wedding, they can carry on, start again. It's never too late. Shelley, I don't know if you remember, there was a talk we gave in COVID on this Zoom. A lady called me up. She was arguing with me a lot on that Zoom. I don't know if you remember. She called me up. Can I please have a chazara? She went after 14 years of not going to the mikvah. She came from a religious family. She left it all. After 14 years, she went again. From that mikvah, she enrolled her children in a Jewish school. And today, she keeps mikvah every single month. This Zoom is very powerful. It's called Powerful Waters, but this Zoom is power, the achdus of women here. Sometimes there are people that are struggling in a relationship, and this might give them a little bit of a connection, right? Marriage counselors all over the world, they teach their non-Jewish clients about 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. This is the secret from our own Torah. It renews, it gives the couple a strength to miss each other. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. And it doesn't matter how many years they're married. The postmenopausal lady I taught, she wrote me a letter and she said, it was really, really lovely. I felt different and peaceful afterwards. Okay. Another woman said to me, it was such a beautiful experience. And we, the mother and her, my mom and I are looking so forward to this. And she wanted to go again after. We'll let you know how we go. And it will be so special to do it together. And I sent her a video link, which I'll tell you in a minute about the story. And she said, yes, we both watched the video. What a powerful story. I have girls who are converting. I teach them every single week. And then the final chapter of their studies is on mikvah. And it's beautiful to watch them getting 100% on the mikvah.org Kahoot. There is a Kahoot game that you can play to review. If you cannot get to a teacher and you need a chazara, mikvah.org has chazaras online, plus also Kahoot and slideshow. There was a woman who was stuck in a country town with me about 2 hours out of Melbourne, and she had a little baby, and there was no way she can get to the mikvah. So we took her to a brook. It literally looked like Gan Eden. And she had the most beautiful experience. She was taking her time. Only afterwards, when we got out, we saw a sign, mind the snakes and scorpions. But it was the most beautiful experience to see this woman going in and saying, wow, this feels like the Garden of Eden. We also know that sometimes Chodesh Elul, which is coming up upon us shortly in a month, is a very powerful time to review. I will tell you a story that happened to me, and when it happens to you, what can I say? You know, it really touches your soul and you want to share it. So I will share 2 stories. One story is the power of asking a Rav. When I was married, we were taught to do our Hafsikhtara, and that it should be absolutely clean, and then you can start counting your days. And there was a time in my life, after having a number of children, that it was harder for me, and I didn't know what to do. And a new Rav, because our old Rav had moved on to another city, a new Rav that was very respected in the community had said to me, why don't you start your Hafsikhtara on day 5? I said, it's not physically possible. It's just not working for me. He said, please, don't be shy. Bring it to me. I was mortified because I didn't feel comfortable. It was a new relationship with a new Rav, as in I knew my old rabbi and my husband was going to see him this time. The rabbi wanted me to be direct. And 1 month I said, you know what? I'm trying so hard. My older daughter wanted a sister. She was 10. And Baruch Hashem, we had a whole bunch of brothers, but no sisters. And things were a bit challenging. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I prepared myself to go to the Rav. On the way, I realized that no longer it's not going to be possible because, of course, I felt that there was other issues going on and that my cycle was not stopping. So I took that Shiloh and threw it in the garbage. That night, I had to see the Rav about something different. And he asked me, Nu, where's your Hefsek Tara day 5? I said, Rabbi, I threw it in the bin because I see that my cycle isn't stopping yet. He said, you are not a Rav. Who are you to decide? Go and bring me the Shiloh. I said, Rabbi, it's in the bin in our local hospital because I was going for an appointment for something. He looked outside his window and he goes, what a shame. You could have brought it to me, but by now the janitor must have cleaned up because it's dark outside. I said, hold that thought. I ran to the hospital and I went to the bin, and right there on top of the bin was just a coffee cup and my envelope with a coffee stain. I ran it back to the Rav and he was in shock. He said, what did you do? I said, I found this. And here are some other shilas. He said, leave it with me. Now, this is the situation. I was flying the very next morning to the USA. I would have one opportunity to go to the mikvah before I flew back to Australia. And then, of course, miss another 2 days of travel, miss again ovulation. And it was getting more tricky and tricky to fall pregnant. And he said to me, leave it with me. I have to see this in the morning light. That morning on my way to the airport, the rabbi called me and said, your shilas were kosher. You can go. I was so relieved. I wanted to go to the Rebbe's mikveh in Crown Heights on Union Street. And Baruch Hashem, I was able to go on my last night of the trip. And Baruch Hashem, my daughter is now 17. And I'm sharing the story in public because I want everyone to know I was that girl who was too shy to bring a shiloh on day 5 because I didn't think it was even, I thought it was not even possible to be even a kosher shiloh. And yet here I am to tell you that the rabbis know better than us. We cannot paskin on ourselves. If you're not sure, go and ask. It never hurts. Second story is that a few years ago in COVID, we were having a Zoom for Yud Beis Tammuz, which is a very special day in our family because my husband's great uncle was the one who was with the Friedrich Rebbe in Kostroma and was there when he got the news that he was free from exile and that whole story over there. So I thought we're going to make a special Zoom. And I wrote to the Rebbe that night after the Zoom about what we did, as I usually do after a Zoom. And we were having a certain complication with something in the family, and I needed a special bracha. And that whole night, I kept telling the ladies, Rosh Chodesh Elul, mark it in your calendar. It's our mikveh review. Don't forget. And I wrote to the Rebbe. That night, I decided to also put a copy in the Igros because I sent it to the OL and a copy to the Igros. When I opened the Igros, it said, Rosh Chodesh Elul, in honor of your upcoming mikveh review, do not forget to include the postmenopausal woman in your review. And we had never done that before. We had never, ever included that before. And therefore, we started to include it. And I called up Mrs. Rivka Slanim and I said, would you mind if, can you do a Zoom for it was all on Zoom those days because of COVID. Would you want to do a Zoom for our mikveh review? She said, funny, you should ask me. Rabbi Chadikov, she said, told her that one of her biggest shlichus is to reach the postmenopausal woman. And it's all hashgacha practice because my mashpia told me to call Rivka. Rivka was told by Rabbi Chadikov that that's her special shlichus. So she made the video for us and we shared it in our community. And it went down very well and many women went. The following year, Baruch Hashem, we went to the Kinnas HaShluchas, and I shared this story. And the ladies, the college teachers asked, can you please share the video? I said, I would love to. We actually own it because we paid for it, but I want to ask Rivka's Rishus. I walk outside, and who do I see but Rivka Slanim, of all the places, in the GEM museum, in the museum there, the Children's Museum. I said, Rivka, somebody just asked, the college teachers would like if we could use your video to go en masse, to go out. She said, absolutely, no question. And we put it on mikvah.org, and Shelley has the link to that review, to that video. So if anybody would like to send this video called One Last Time to a woman who hasn't yet had the opportunity to go to mikvah, the Rebbe very much pushed this. The Rebbe wanted this. Rabbi Chadikov told this to Mrs. Slanim, and Bahashgacha Pradis came in my answer. So I feel like I'm sharing this with you. Shelley, I don't know how much.
It's in the chat box. So if anybody wants to look, you can scroll up. I want to make another announcement. I just saw that there was a man on our Zoom. I took him out of the Zoom, but I was please like to ask everyone, this is just a women's class, to please respect that and make sure that we only have women on. I would love for everyone to put their name on so we have an identification. This is very sensitive information and only geared to women. We put the link for Slonim on the chat. We can put it again just for those who joined us later on. So thank you, and this really is amazing. Shternie, if you have, maybe I'll
stories, and I'll then leave it to Sarah, because I really feel that, first of all, again, I want to repeat, this is a schus for my mother-in-law, Miriam Bas Eliyahu. Her neshama should have an aliyah. We are in the middle of her shiva, but I didn't want to cancel this because she would never have canceled. And Shelley, thank you for giving us the opportunity. And everyone who is on here, thank you for being here and listening. We want to invite Hashem as our third partner into this marriage. A triangle is the strongest structure. Mikvah is a way to involve Hashem in our marriage in a very tangible way. And mikvahs for all types of people. You'd be surprised. Some people who are not keeping much, but yet they will not give up on the mikvah. And mikvah these days are beautiful. They look like a spa. In most countries in the world, they're the most modern, beautiful spas, immaculate. And if you not yet have a mikvah that's gorgeous and immaculate in your city, you can help that be a reality. So we can make that be a reality. Lots of people I speak with are unaware that mikvah should be and are stunning and immaculate. Keeping mikvah is something very special, very exciting, and very beautiful, and renews the connection of husband and wife. It gives them an opportunity to look forward to something that's like a honeymoon every month. And I remember my mother-in-law said a cute story. For her anniversary, for her 25th anniversary, all her children had a limousine waiting outside her house as a surprise party on her anniversary night. Lo and behold, it was her mikvah night, and she didn't know what to do. So she obviously had to postpone for later on that night. But, she said she went in that limousine. She thought it's just her own family. She went in without her makeup, without any of her fancy dress up. And she came into the restaurant and there were all her friends and family. She said, listen, what we do for Hashem, so I wasn't in my best dressed, fancy makeup and everything, but I was there because I had to. She had no choice, but she said that it was the most beautiful thing that on that night, after her function, she went off to the mikvah. But, it's quite awesome. Sometimes mikvah does fall out with challenges. And I'll share one last story and then I'll leave it because Mrs. Karmely is so patient. One last story. Baruch Hashem, one of my children, he had his bar mitzvah last year. His birthday is next week. And so guess what? He learned the parsha. So he's been reading in the shiva, he's been reading the Torah every day from the parsha that he knew for his father and his uncle, because you need to read the Torah Monday and Thursday. Well, his birth is also miraculous, and I'd like to share that as well. Like my mother-in-law, I also had an interesting mikvah night. It fell out on my daughter's bas mitzvah. And I made sure to ask my aunt, Mrs. Toby Leader, who's a well-known shatran, to please take me after the fact, after that, when the mikvah is closed, and we will go by ourselves. Now, Mrs. Leader and I know the code. We know the gate. We've taken many, many women to the mikvah. But somehow on that night, when we got there late at night, post the bas mitzvah, like 11:30 or 12 o'clock at night, the gate wasn't opening, as it is. Like I said, sometimes on mikvah, there are challenges. And then it started to rain and we really couldn't get in. And what happened was my aunt said, I think you need to go home. We'll come another day. I said, are you kidding? My grandfather, her father, saw the Rebbe jump over a fence in Prospect Park when the Rebbe had to get to Tashlich. And all the men then followed the Rebbe who jumped over. You can watch the video on Gem. My grandfather shared it, Rabbi Yosef Goldstein, how the Rebbe jumped over the fence for Tashlich in the early years. And how the Rebbe jumped over like a young man. I said, we're not going home. We'll jump over the fence like Zadie did. She said, are you kidding? I'm in my Crocs. Can I now have 14 children? I don't know if I could scale the fence. I'm like, we're doing it. But just before we decided to do it, I decided to call a very special lady who actually went to seminary with my mother-in-law. And the special lady answered the phone. They were the only two from Australia together in seminary. Just for anonymity, I'm not going to share her name, but she knows who she is. It was 10:45 or 11 o'clock when I rang her. And I said, I'm so sorry. We need to take someone to the mikvah. We can't get in. She said, I'm in my pajamas. I'm coming. She put on a robe. She came and she opened the door. That night, I conceived my beautiful child, Baruch Hashem, my Pinny. And 9 months later, her daughter gave birth to a beautiful child. Now, the mother of this child told me that when she held my baby in shul that Rosh Hashanah, we go to the same shul. She said, I wish I could have a child. She was married for the second time and she was an older mother already. She had children from previous, but she didn't think she can get pregnant again. And she was blessed with a child 9 months later. And that child and my son are best of friends. And I always said, your mother opened the door for me. And in that schus, you had that child. So now we're going to remember that sometimes challenges come up on the day of the mikvah, but we push ourselves. And like I shared earlier, all those stories. So I don't want to keep you much longer, but I want this to be a schus. Like I said, my mother-in-law taught for 56 years. Baruch Hashem, the schusim are with her. You don't have to be a kala teacher to inspire someone to go to mikvah. You just have to inspire them. We will connect you to a teacher. Shelley can find a teacher, or on Chabad.org. You can look up mikvah.org, teachers in your local area. You just have to inspire someone. And because we are all together in the schus of Achdus, let us hope that Hashem, who is the mikvah of Yisrael, tikva, the hope of Israel, should bring peace to Eretz Yisrael, peace to our nation. May we only see brachas. And thank you to everyone. I'm going to hand over now to our wonderful teacher, Sarah Karmely, also a veteran teacher. And may we have the schus to be reunited with our loved ones and with my wonderful shvigar, Bakar of Mamish. Please, ladies, if you can inspire one lady to go to mikvah in her schus, it would be a big schus. Thank you so much.
Shternie, thank you very much. We really appreciate your time. And we know that it's a very, very hard day for you. So thank you for taking the time to do this. This is very, very meaningful for all of us. Thank you. Our next speaker for tonight is Sarah Karmely, who always waits so patiently and gives us her time, unlimited time, and it's just, we so appreciate it. I'm sorry for the noise in the background. Sarah Karmely is a marriage consultant. She's also an acclaimed lecturer. She also is a writer. She's an author. She wrote 2 amazing books, Words to Hear with the Heart, to Hear with the Heart, and Stories to Hear with the Heart. I have one of them here, Stories to Hear with the Heart. And both books are amazing. We can send Sarah Karmely's information and you can reach out to her if you want a copy of the book. She is also mikvah.org certified, mikvah USA certified. Mikvah USA certified. And Sarah Karmely, I don't want to hold any longer because your stories are amazing and inspiring, and we can't wait to hear what you have to tell us tonight. We did take a little bit longer because we are dedicating the class tonight, but there's still much more to say.
Thank you so much. Yes, mikvah.org and Mikvah USA, both. I started with mikvah.org and I owe my teaching to them. I started with them how to teach. I have to first say thank you to my teacher. Rebbe Sangarek is online. I just saw her name there, which is, I don't know how to thank her because she's the one who helped me in Italy. I'm really a wandering Jew. I'm Persian origin. My parents are Iranian. I've never been to Iran. I was born in India because I happened to be living in India. Grew up in London. That's where my accent is from. Got married and moved to Italy, and Rebbe Sangarek, among the others, she's the one who actually brought me on this path. So we moved to the States. 1979, and the rabbi from my community asked me, please teach women and colors about Taras Mishpacha. I took it very seriously. Yes, mikvah.org, that's where I learned. I took 4 teachers training courses, how to teach. I took it very seriously, and I started to teach. After about 6 months, I got very nervous. It was a bigger class to teach. I got scared. Maybe I'm not teaching properly. Maybe they're not receiving it properly. Maybe they don't understand it properly. So I decided I'm not going to do this anymore. And I actually told the Rebbe I'm not going to do this anymore. And he looked at me with his piercing blue eyes and he told me, not only you can do this, but you must do this. And he said, I want to be partners with you. And this was 40 years ago, before dollars. He gave me $15 from the free to go.
Hair. You don't need a hair. Oh.
I did not know how many colors women were coming that night. Persian community. 14 women and myself made 15. So that really made me feel that, yes, he's still my partner. When I teach, I still feel from the corner of my eye that he's He's there watching, smiling. I actually had Yechidus. It was one of the, in his room. I remember it was my son's bar mitzvah. My son is now Zaidi Baruch Hashem, many years ago. And I never forget what the Rebbe told me. And I'm going to repeat this because I feel it's not just applicable for me. I feel it's for every woman out there. He gave us a bracha, and then he became very serious, and he said the following. He said, you have to go and bring people back to Hashem. If you do this, you'll be standing in Hashem's place. And if you do God's work, he'll help you with your work, and he'll give you riches more than you dreamed possible. Then he said, did you understand what I said? Everybody who knows what it feels like when the Rebbe is staring at you with his piercing blue eyes, that I started to stammer. He said, I will say it again. He repeated word for word everything, and he ended up by saying, I hope you heard my words with your heart. And that was actually the name of my book, Words to Hear with Your Heart and Stories to Hear with Your Heart. So I really felt very, very enabled, empowered to do this. And I think it's not just for me. Every woman who's out there, I don't care who you are, please do your best. If you know there's a woman out there who doesn't know about it, or knows about it, but maybe doesn't realize how she has to keep it exact, please do your best to do what you can. One word here and there can plant the seeds. I'll never forget, I was in New Jersey speaking. It was in Tenafly, I remember. So I spoke. And after I finished speaking, a lady comes up to me and tells me, I don't know what this is. I never heard about this. But please tell me, how do I go to mikveh? So I said, thank you very much. All these people around here, you can't just teach on one foot. Come to me or come to the Rebbe and we'll teach. So she looked at me and she said, if you think I'm leaving you out of this room without you teaching me, you're mistaken. I want to know, how do I keep this? She cornered me. So I took out a pack of Badika cloths. I always carry a pack of Badika cloths in my bag, not for me, but to give out to women who at times like this. And I recommend if everybody should do the same, to have these cloths in your bag. Mikveh.org actually has very beautiful color kits, a velvet pouch with the Badika cloths in it. So I gave her the cloths. I said, here's the cloths. Here's my card with my number. Call me and you're going to use this. I'm going to teach you. Well, I remember for 15 years, I had the undeserved merit that I used to be, Baruch Hashem, the Rebbe used to help me. For 15 years, I used to go there every single day. My car used to go from my home to 770 Eastern Park, where every day, 3:15, the Rebbe would come out of his office to daven mincha, and I would go there. And of course, when there was dollars, I would take busloads of people to the Rebbe for brachas. And I did it for selfish reasons, because it meant that I got a chance to stand there opposite the Rebbe and bring the ladies past me. And the Rebbe would tell me what to tell the ladies, to teach them what to help them. I'm just mentioning a fact. The majority of times when I would tell the Rebbe this woman needs a bracha for shalom bayis, having children, having problems, the Rebbe would tell me, please tell her to keep the laws of Taras Mishpacha bidyuch, exact. I'm ashamed to say many times, I really was like, I should tell this woman to keep mikveh, because I knew she had an issue with her husband who was not treating her so well, or other issues. I had to do it. I saw miracles. If I would not have seen them myself, I would not believe it. But I saw literally miracles. And there's so many actually stories I'd like to share about this. I remember there was this lady, she was actually my cousin. The truth, her name was Hannah. And she had big problems with shalom bayis with her husband. No one was surprised when basically she told us she's getting a divorce. In our community, divorce is very rare. So her mother flies in from Eretz Israel, very upset. Her daughter wants to get a divorce. I took her to the Rebbe. This was before dollars. I used to take people in mincha time. 3:15 would stand in the lobby of 770. The Rebbe would come out of his room on the left-hand side, daven mincha, and go back again. So I took my aunt over there, and I wrote a little petek, putting in the name of her daughter, Hannah Bas Rivka, that she has problems with shalom bayis, she wants to get a divorce. Mincha was over, and we were going to leave. All of a sudden, the Rebbe's office door opened, and Rabbi Groner Zechronova came out. Mrs. Karmely said, wait, you have an answer to your note. I said, what? He showed me, I saw with my own eyes, on my petek, on my note, the Rebbe's holy handwriting, writing that I should tell this Chana Bas Rivka to keep the laws of Taras Mishpacha B'diuk. I was very excited. I told Hannah, look what your aunt said. Oh, give me a break. It's too late now. I'm just going to get divorced. I said, look, do this. If it doesn't work, you can always get a divorce, but try this. Well, I talked her into it. I taught her the halachas and everything. And well, a few days before she had to go to the mikveh, I get a call from her. Am I allowed to go to the mikveh with fake nails? I don't remember exactly what it was. It was many years ago this happened. Tips, I don't know what it was, but I don't know what they are, but like fake nails, tips. So I said, I'm not a Rav. You don't pass in Shilas. I'm not going to tell her what to do. I consulted with a competent Rav from Crown Heights. I explained the situation. He says, obviously, it's not a desirable thing to do because you have to go to the mikveh when you're newly born. In this case, though, I advise you to tell her to remove the polish and keep the nails on. You know, he told me what to do, that she can go to the mikveh with those tips. So I listened to a Rav and I told her what to do, and I called the mikveh lady in Queens. And I told her she's allowed to go. The Rav Paskin that she's allowed to go. She said, fine. Well, a few days later, the mikveh lady calls me and tells me, excuse me, Mrs. Karmely, you told me about this lady with the nails. I said, yeah. She said, well, she actually had them taken off before she came. I said, I don't know. Okay, I don't know. She asked me and I told her. And I called my cousin. I said, what was that all about? You asked me about the nails. I said, you can. What happened there? And I really admire her. What did she say? She said, well, who am I kidding? If I want to do this mitzvah, let me do it properly already. Otherwise, who am I fooling? It's not that you should keep everything or nothing, but she was smart enough to know if the Rebbe said to keep it exact, she's going to do it. She had them removed. True story. Baruch Hashem, she did not get divorced. She had, Baruch Hashem, 5 children. I think one of the issues they had was she wasn't getting pregnant. They moved to Eretz Yisrael. They live in Bnei Brak. And sometimes when we call each other during the year, she asked me, Sarah, are you still saying the story about my nails? I said, yes, I'm still saying the story about your nails. So there. So it's a true story. It's saying to keep it proper, keep it biduk. Is it the biduk part? It's like the .com.org, the insignificant dot is so crucial. So I'm not saying keep everything or nothing. You can't do that. But when you keep it properly, it processes the way it's supposed to be. I remember I've sent many colors by different sort of rabbis here in Queens, all different types. An Israeli bride, I think it was her second marriage. I don't remember exactly, but I remember she came in very upset. I'm only coming for the petek. She came with black leather pants, open top, and she was very annoyed why she has to do this. I don't have any zman. I don't have time. I said, Beseder, come sit, we'll have a cup of tea. Baruch Hashem, that lady sends me so many of her friends, the ones who would maybe not go. I don't understand why, but you give them the emet, and they understand the emes. So that's what we have to do. Words from the heart go to the heart. Just want to share with you some stories because nothing much more left to say, because Baruch Hashem, we all know the importance of Taras Mishpacha. As it was mentioned about 3 times to pray, yes. Just share something personal about me. When I got married, I did not know. Baruch Hashem, Verbetzin Goelik was the one to teach me. I kept Taras Mishpacha because my mother told me, if I can keep mikveh in India, you can keep mikveh everywhere. So really, literally, I kept mikveh all over the world, all the places I've been to. So I never forget, it was in Milano, and I wasn't getting pregnant. 6 months goes by, trying, not happening. Very painful. Nobody knows the pain of a woman who wants to get pregnant and she can't, and she sees babies, and you see, it's very painful. So I think it was my 6th month already. I wasn't conceiving. And I went to the mikveh, the old one, Rebbe Guerik, the old one in Guastala, old, like times of Titus, I think, not like the beautiful mikveh they have now all over the world. It was old, it was kind of frightening to go in, but I went and I dipped. And nobody told me that's when you can, one of the times you can ask Hashem anything. I mean, Hashem is everywhere. He's here with us right now. But our 3 special times, it's called the Esrat Son, when you're lighting Shabbos candles, or you're doing Hafrish Challah, and when you're in the mikveh. So I dipped, I made the bracha, and I begged Hashem for a child. And I promised him, if you God give me a healthy child, I'll dedicate this child to you. And I guess when all the gates are closed, the gates of tears are never closed. And that's when I cried my eyes out, and that's when I conceived my son, who made me a great grandma, Baruch Hashem, many times over. Baruch Hashem, thank you, Hashem. Now we consist of body and soul. Our body is represented by the challah, Beit Chomer. Our soul is represented by the candles we light, because the candle is an air neshama. And what is connecting the body and the soul together in a healthy way? The laws of Taras Mishpacha. We also know the word mikveh, when you read it, it could be read as mekaveh. And the word koma is also, if you rearrange the letters of mikveh, is koma, because we elevate another level. And when we tovel, the letters can be read as bitul, because we're really totally nullifying ourselves to Hashem. It's such an important mitzvah, I tell the colors, that if you're in a place where there's no mikveh, they have to sell the Torah, sell the shul, and build a mikveh, because without that, there's no future of the Jewish people. Mm-hmm. I'd like to share with you a few stories, 2 stories that happened in my personal life. I was going to Thailand. I've been to Thailand 8 times, mostly to go and speak, but sometimes just to join with my husband. And my husband has a cousin there. It's okay if I mention his name, Shaltiel Zevoloni. His wife's name is Ronit. Such a special lady. She's Israeli, and she says it as it is. She told me the following. She says, Sarah, we were trying to have a baby, it wasn't working. And every single month, this was before there was a mikveh in Bangkok. Baruch Hashem, now there is. She said, every single month when I had to go to the mikveh, I would prepare myself and then drive down from Bangkok, the town where they lived, down to the coast of Pattaya. It's a fishing village, and they would go down there in order to tovel into the sea. And they would take this water scooter, and he would go into the middle of the sea, turn off the engine, and she would immerse and come back on the scooter, and they'll go home. So 1 month, as usual, we went on the motor ski, jet ski. He turns off the engine. I immerse myself in the water. I get back on. But she said, for some reason, when he turned the key for the engine, it didn't turn on. He tried 3 or 4 times, it didn't turn on. And they realized the engine was dead. She said, we didn't realize at that moment we're going to be killed. She said, we just saw that we've been drifted more and more into the sea, and we couldn't swim back, it was too far. And they saw they were coming to this craggy rock formation in the middle of the sea, and they were being driven, the suit was being driven onto that craggy rock formation. And she said, Sarah, at that moment we realized we're going to be killed. We both started screaming to Hashem, Hashem, save us. She said, all I could think of, Sarah, at that moment was my mother's face when they would tell her, your daughter got smashed to pieces in the sea, Kipri Mikveh. We both started crying out, Hashem, please don't let it happen. There should be a Chilul Hashem to say, oh, they went to the mikveh in the sea and they got killed. Ronit told me, and I believe Ronit because she says it as it is. She says at that moment, waves just came out of the blue and just brought us back to the shore. And that month I conceived my son, Kudim Doron, which means gift. And she had more children after that. Baruch Hashem, now there's a beautiful mikveh in Thailand. 40 years ago, the Rebbe told the 4 Jewish families living in Thailand, in Bangkok, build a mikveh. They thought, for who? You know how many people keep that mikveh now? Israelis going through. I myself, I remember once when I flew in, I didn't get a chance to tell the Rebbetzin there, Rebbetzin Nechama Kantor, to heat up the mikveh for me. And she said, when I flew in, she said, I said, I need to use a mikveh. Oh, she said, Sarah, it's not heated up. Can you maybe wait tomorrow? I said, no. You know, it's so hot in Thailand. When you walk through the streets, it's like a steam bath. I said, it'll be mechaya. I don't mind going to, it's a tepid water. Well, I didn't realize tepid water for us is freezing cold. I went inside that water. It wasn't freezing cold water. My body turned blue and I thought, I was crying. How do those women in Russia used to go into the icy rivers? It beats me. All I know is that I'm ashamed to say it was difficult, and it wasn't even freezing icy cold. Well, just to share with you a few stories, I helped a lot of the refugees when they moved from Iran to Italy, by Italy to the States. One of the women, beautiful Persian woman, she married a very, very wealthy man. They live in Great Neck. To see this woman, you think she has everything in life. Her husband owns, I don't know how many boutiques in Manhattan. Every time you see her, it's a new set of clothes, jewelry to match. Children, magnificent home. I was very shocked when she called me one day and told me, I'm thinking of getting a divorce. I said, excuse me? What are you lacking? What don't you have? You have everything. She told me, she said, I think my husband is not faithful to me. And she said, he doesn't look to me as me. The words she used was, I'm just a sex object for him. He doesn't look to me as me. And it's very painful. I can't take it anymore. I said, you're going to come and you're going to learn about mikveh, and you're going to keep mikveh. So she said, you don't understand. We're not religious, Sarah. You don't understand. He doesn't keep Shabbos. He works on Shabbos. We don't keep kosher. I'd be a hypocrite, right, if I'd be keeping mikveh. I said, no, that's a Yetzer Hara telling you this. If you're Jewish and you're married, and you're a woman, you keep mikveh. So I think in her heart, she really cared about him. I taught her what she has to do. And I was kind of nervous about it because, you know, after I think 12 years married, not keeping separation. Finally, the day came when she called me, she said, you know, it happened. My husband approached me and I had to say no because I got my period. I said, what happened? I was kind of nervous. She had surprise in her voice. She said, Sarah, it was amazing. He turned around and he looked at me like he was looking at me for the first time because he could not be with her, couldn't have her. It's true, it's not a story, it really happened. They're still married. I don't know if she's keeping Shabbos or kosher, but I know she's keeping mikveh because she calls me occasionally asking me different questions. So it really did change her life. She said, I felt that now I'm a person for him. And I became forbidden fruit, which is what Taras Mishpacha does. It brings forbidden fruit. Just to share with you another lady who came to me. She wasn't a color. She was married, I think, for 6 months. And she didn't learn with me, but she came to me for counseling. Her problem was when she would come home from the mikveh, her husband could not perform. He could not have relations with her. For some reason, he wasn't able to have relations with her. And she was very upset. Rightfully so. So I told her, let's learn about mikveh. So she was honest enough. She told me that she sleeps in her husband's arms the whole month. Yes, neither, not neither, in the same bed. And I just feel more cozy in his arms, you know. I said, really? And what's his reaction to this? Oh, she said, he really believes in mikveh. He's very good at controlling himself. I said, wait, you don't need to be a shrink to know what's going on here. What was happening here? Her husband was holding his wife in his arms, and he was brainwashing himself not to feel aroused, not to be turned on, whatever you want to call it. And he did such a good job that when she would come home from the mikveh, he couldn't switch on and off, say, now be aroused, now be turned on. I said, it doesn't work that way. You have to have 2 beds. It's not going to work. Oh, she said, it's very hard to do that because, you know, my bedroom is small and the bed fits in and I can't bring another bed in there. I said, you came to me for counseling. I'm telling you, it ain't going to work. You have to have 2 beds. So, Baruch Hashem, she did listen. She got this futon, this little sort of chair that opens into a bed, and they slept separately. And the problem was resolved. not because of me, because of Hashem. The Rebbe would always say, if you're together when you should be far, then you'll be far when you should be close. And this has really exactly happened, this situation. I have another lady who, again, she didn't learn with me, but she liked to listen to my shiurim. So one day she confessed to me, she said, I don't know what to do, she said. My husband told me, you are not going to the mikveh. If you keep Taharat Mishpacha, that's it, I'm divorcing you, it's disgusting. Persian family, they've got this obsession that they think the mikveh water is dirty, which is not. And he says, you're not going to go to the mikveh, I'm not going to touch it, I'll be very angry. So I had to find heta for her to go to the mikveh the next day and during the day instead of the night that she had to go to. This went on for, I think, about a year. And one day she said to me, what is this? I'm not living in Russia. Why do I have to hide from him? I'm going to tell him I'm going to the mikveh. And she did. She went to the mikveh and she told him. He got so mad that night. He was upset with her. He went and he slept in the children's room. He said, that's it, I'm done. I can't take this anymore. What is this? She was crying to me. I said, let's learn together. She confessed to me that she doesn't do the bedikas. I said, why? She said, I don't know, I just figured I'm wait an extra day, and why don't I know I'm not bleeding, why don't I said, no, you have to make the bedikas. That's part of the whole. Anyway, she started to do the bedikas. Baruch Hashem, it's like a nace. He would actually drive her to the mikvah after that. He accepted it. What does this mean? We're not in charge. Hashem is telling us, if you do it this way, it will work. If you don't that way, it's not the way it's supposed to be. It's not that we have to decide. Hashem is telling us what to do. A couple more stories, and I go, this really happened just during COVID. Those years. Happened a few years ago. And this is exactly what happened. A lady in Crown Heights, of course, I don't say who, what. The group of women I've been teaching for years now, when they were still brides. Now, Baruch Hashem, they become bobbies. We still have our monthly session. So she told me the following. She says her daughter got married, and it was during COVID time. So everyone was stuck inside their homes. And her daughter got very, very upset because she was in this tiny apartment with her husband, and the halakas were very hard for her. She felt she was a new bride. She wanted to at least hug her husband, but of course she couldn't. But she was very upset, and she was very upset with Hashem. Why can't they find a heta or kula or something? Anyway, what happened was her husband and I were home. And her husband's brother comes and says that her husband's father, was intubated. He's in the hospital. He's very, very serious. The doctor said, we don't know if he's going to make it. He's in a coma, and basically there's nothing left to do. So they both got very upset, her and her husband, and they decided they're going to open and daven. So he opened a siddur, Tehillim, and he started to say Tehillim. She opened it, Hayom Yom, and she said it fell out on the Hayom Yom where it teaches, when the Rebbe says, Taharat Mishpacha saves lives. So this hit her very strongly, and she decided, I'm going to keep this exactly. I'm going to keep it, every single thing, the hiddur, everything. And she said, she went to the mikveh. When she came home from the mikveh, the brother came home and said, her father came out of the coma, he opened his eyes. This has really happened during COVID. And basically, it really does save lives. We've got to do what we've got to do. We have to do it without even thinking. We have to just listen to Hashem's guidance. The Rebbe would, again, he would always tell me to tell women to keep the laws of Taharat Mishpacha, biduk. And biduk means really keeping good to Hashem, as Hashem teaching. You know, now share one more thing. Maybe this will help anybody who's teaching.
Sarah, I'm going to stop you for 1 second. I just want to remind everyone that if you have any questions, you can post them on the chat. If you want to ask the question on the Zoom, we could do that as well. So after the next story, we can open a few minutes for questions, okay? So
I have so many stories, but there's basically one more thing I just want to mention that's very important. Shlomo Melech, the wisest of all men, what does he teach us when we sing Eshes Chayil? The penultimate pasuk says, Sheker hachein v'heveliyofi, which everybody knows this means. Sheker hachein, you know, charm is fake, beauty is transient. A woman who reveres Hashem is to be praised. But we know this. What's the wisest of men teaching us? Sheker hachein. Hachein spelled Hey Ches Nun. What does it stand for? Hey stands for Hadlakat Nerot, lighting Shabbos candles. Ches stands for the mitzvah of Chala, kashrus. Nun stands for the mitzvah of Nida, Taras Mishpacha. So the wisest of men is teaching us, if Sheker hachein, if these three mitzvahs are done Sheker, not the way it's supposed to be, then hey, Hevel Yofi, what use is beauty? And so many times I have couples coming to me, the woman is drop dead gorgeous, and you can't even see it. Is it because of this? We have to do what we've got to do. We have to realize Hashem is giving us a blueprint. It's a blueprint for a godly marriage, not just a happy marriage. Happy marriage, yes, no, some days, yes. A godly marriage is forever. As I said, I always teach this, that this is your marriage, a triangle. Hashem, you, and your spouse. When you have Hashem in your marriage, you can't fail. So this story happened in California. I fly often to California because I speak Farsi, and there's a lot of Persian women in California who like to hear someone speaking Farsi. The Rebbe will tell me a few times to teach the Persian women in their language. So I flew in. It was on a Tuesday, I remember. I flew in, and it was in the valley, a very big, huge, big shul. And I was speaking to couples, those men, women, on relationships, on Shalom Bais, as well as a little bit of Taras Mishpach, but mostly Shalom Bais. So after I finished speaking, I was tired because there's 3 hours difference between California and New York, but I was happy to stay on and speak to people who wanted to speak to me after my talk, because people like to do that. They wait till it's over and then they speak to me personally one-on-one, which is fine. I couldn't help noticing there was one couple who wants to be the last ones on the line because they're letting everybody go before them. Finally, everybody was out of this big auditorium, and the only people left was myself, the husband, and the wife, like this, sitting in a triangle. I was really tired because it was like midnight for me, New York time. But I asked, how can I help you? And this is what happened. The lady pointed to her husband and said, this is my husband. I don't love him anymore. Whoa, kind of blew me away. It was the way she said it. And I turned around to see the husband's reaction. It really broke my heart. Because although he was smiling, he'd gone red and her tears were just coming down his face. And she said, when we got married, she said, quote, we were starry-eyed. I couldn't wait to be with him. I was starry-eyed. And now he doesn't, the word she used was, he doesn't turn me on anymore. Is my marriage over? I don't have any feelings for him. Is my marriage over? Now, all the time she was talking, I couldn't help noticing they were being very physical. She was tapping him, he was brushing lint off her jacket, touching all the time. So I said, who am I to tell you what to do? I can tell you someone much wiser than myself. The Lubavitcher Rebbe said that when you keep Taras Mishpacha, it brings intimacy, it brings closeness. Are you doing that? Well, she was very indignant. She said, what do you mean? Don't you think I'm wearing a wig? I'm religious. Of course I'm keeping mikveh. I didn't know how to tell about the exact part about the touching. I said, it's Tuesday night, this coming Shabbos in San Diego, 2-hour drive away from LA. There's going to be a beautiful Shabbaton, a seminar. I'm going to be there. Another rabbi is going to be there. The hotel is beautiful. I want you to leave your children with family and come on down with your husband alone and make it a honeymoon. She laughed. She said, not a honeymoon, you see, because I won't be going to the mikveh till after Shabbos. I said, wait a minute. You're telling me you're keeping Taras Mishpacha, but you're really not properly, because you haven't been to the mikveh and you're touching each other. You're not allowed until you go to the mikveh. So she felt, but she said, it's true. It kind of, you're right. I'm not keeping it properly. I think over the years of having children, maybe I forgot about the halacha, so I slipped up. By then I was very tired. I said, listen, you asked me advice, I'm giving you 2. Learn the laws of Taras Mishpacha. A review once a year is, you have to. review the laws and keep them. And second of all, come on down to the seminar. Yes, honeymoon, not honeymoon, just come on down. It's going to be very good for you. Well, that was Tuesday night. Fast forward now to Friday. Friday, I was taken to this hotel, and she actually came with her husband, and she approached me. She said, I go as usual, to touch my husband. I'm just used to that, but I stopped doing that. She said, I'm kind of looking forward to going to the mikveh and being with him. I said, very nice. Next morning was Shabbos. I was walking into one of the rooms designated to be the shul, and she was standing waiting for me. And she pulled me to the side and she said, Sarah, I have to tell you, I had such a vivid dream last night. It was so real. In my dream, I dreamt that I was being intimate with my husband. In my dream, I dreamt, you haven't been to the mikveh. And I pulled away. I said, wow, really? That's so interesting. She said, Sarah, you don't get it. You don't get it, Sarah. You don't get it. I'm dreaming of being with my husband. When was the last time I dreamt of being with him? It really happened maybe 4 years ago, and it still stayed with me, this story. From Tuesday till Shabbos, how many days is that? Not so many. Amazing change. The whole dynamic in her relationship changed from being just not bored with him and turned off with him to actually dreaming of being with him. What does this mean? It's so powerful when you keep it exact. Plus, I just didn't like the fact she's telling me when we got married, we were starry-eyed. Now I'm not. Is it over? It's such a fallacy. You have to always be starry-eyed. No, you don't. Some days you're up, some days you're not down. I'm older than everybody here in this chat, I think. So I've done EKGs. EKGs is like a heart monitor when it checks the heart rates going up and down. Straight line, you're in trouble. Marriage is like an EKG. There's the ups and there's the downs, but it's okay. It's not a straight line. So we have to do all we can to keep our marriage the way it's supposed to be. May I just share this? I know we don't have so much time, but I just feel I have to share this because it's actually the anniversary of something that happened in our community, in the Persian community. I feel I just have to share this with you. This is history. I come from a town called Mashhad. Other Persian Jews don't like us. Why? Because the Mashhadi Jews are very insular. They're only married within themselves. Why is that? And I'll explain to you why. 180 years ago, this week, this happened. It's a historical fact. 180 years ago, this week, there was an uprising. There was a big pogrom in the town of Mashhad, a very religious Muslim town. They spread lies about the Jews. And the Muslim clerics got up and they told the Jews, either convert to Islam or we're going to kill you. 40 Jews got massacred. And then the Rabbanim, the Chachamim got up and said, we're going to tell them, okay, we're going to convert. It's a fake conversion, of course, in order we shouldn't be massacred. So it's handed down through history how the Jews in Mashhad, which I'm proud of, kept every mitzvah. The Hiddur, they had an underground mikveh in someone's house. Nobody knew there was a mikveh there. They all kept mikveh. They had out-of-town matzah bakery. They would bake matzah out of town. They wouldn't have sugar. They would melt the sugar like the Hasidim. Shabbos, no problem. Anybody who had a store, they would hire a non-Jewish boy to be there and say, oh, the boss isn't here, come tomorrow because the prices he made 10 times more, the prices should be in order that they shouldn't buy. Just name it. Kashrus, they kept everything kosher, Mehadrin. Just one problem they had was what? Marriage. Why? Because if a Muslim boy would come for a Jewish girl, they couldn't tell the parents, no, because we're Jewish. They weren't allowed to do that. So what did they do? This factually has that fact. They would betroth their daughters from birth. It would happen many times if a woman was pregnant, she was told, oh, this is the baby girl, she's going to marry so-and-so. Cousins married many times within themselves. That was the custom. Why? Because if the Muslims would come for that girl's hand in marriage, they could rightfully say, no, she's betrothed to someone else. Now, this was not a fake betrothal. When the girl came from age, my mother's mother got married at the age of 9. Of course, they sent the chosin out of town, but they got married to the person they were betrothed to. Now, I want to ask you, does anybody know what a child is going to be when they grow up? Emotionally, physically? No. So you see these pictures of these children, they're getting married, they're practically children themselves, and they grow up, and you see the woman goes big, huge, big woman, and the man is tiny, tiny little man, half her size, and also maybe emotionally or other ways they don't match. But guess what, my dear friends? They stayed married. They stayed married. It didn't occur to them that we're not compatible. They stayed married, and Baruch Hashem, they live together in peace and harmony. Nowadays in our community, unfortunately, that there's dating and that other problems are coming. The reason I'm mentioning this, keeping Taras Mishpacha is the glue that binds marriages together. When you keep it exact, you can keep it or really keep it. Not to look for heterim. Of course, there's always times when we cannot go, but we never ever push off mikveh night. Ladies, don't push off mikveh night. The Arizal teaches, quote, holy neshamas come down to women who tovel on time. Plus, it's not a good message for our husbands to push off mikveh night, unless chas v'shalom there's extenuating circumstances. So we can bless one another, as we all can. We should all have true shalom bayis, true health, parnasa, nachas from our children, and Hashem should have nachas from us to do what we have to do. Each and every woman on this chat, I don't know if it's a chat or whatever the class, please, I'm asking everybody one special favor. Please reach out to another woman, even one woman, if not more. If just imagine everyone on this chat will reach out to one woman that maybe you think she doesn't know, or maybe she doesn't realize how to keep it properly. Please reach out and bring Mashiach by doing this. Thank you so much, Shelley. Thank you for all you're doing. Thank you, everybody, what you're doing. And we should only have good news. And the main good news that Mashiach should just come already. Thank you so much.
Sarah Karmely, thank you so much. I can listen to you forever. I never, Sarah Karmely has been doing this with us a lot this year and all over the world, but she has so many stories. I always think, maybe I should remind her what she said before, but she always has new stories. It's amazing. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Shelley. You're amazing. Thank you.
For the inspiration. And really what we could take away from this today, I think it's very important, is to do chazara. Sometimes you know something, but you miss something, you forget, time flies, and you're busy and you think, oh, it's okay, I didn't really, or we have to really go over laws, just like any halacha, we want to review it all the time. So taharat mishpacha halachas are very important, and you can reach out to Sarah Karmely, you can reach out to we have so many resources today to be able, everybody has some mashpia, a rabbi, rebbitzin in the community that you can get advice from. Please reach out and get the right information and connect yourself to the source. It's very, very important. And again, like Sarah Karmely said, this is how we will bring Mashiach, when we do everything meticulously to the best of our ability. Each person knows what they need to strengthen in. To end our class tonight, we always like to watch a video from the Rebbe, something inspiring. So we're going to share our screen now. I'm just going to check our box. I want to make sure that nobody had questions. Okay, so just thank you. Thank you, ladies, for joining. And we will share our screen in a minute, and we'll watch a beautiful, beautiful video with a combination of speakers talking about the importance of a mikvah, of a beautiful mikvah, and of spreading the mitzvah of mikvah.
I went on Shlichus in 1974. I got a survey from the Rebbe for about a lot of different towns in upstate New York. I should write what's the matter of Yidden there, how many Yidden there are, if they have a shul, if they have a mikveh, all these things. And when I reported all that, so I got a hira from Rabbi Chadikov to build a mikveh in Troy.
Soll sein Mikve Stare, Bechol Mokim und Mokim, dort wird gelegt der Yisod, durch die Ruhe, was mit Buitos auf der Linie von der Mikvetare, auf Zuziehen. Bechol ifan im Hof Shorium, soll sein der Kiyum Mitzvah Zu, mit der Simcha of Tuv Livov.
Now, Troy really, certainly at that time, was a declining population. There weren't young people moving into there. And it didn't really seem like they needed a mikveh. A mikveh is a big expense. And I could barely pay my living expenses. And there is a mikveh in Albany. And to undertake a mikveh in Troy sounded very unrealistic.
Sie doch ja du der Psagdin gebracht bei Chreine mit Yusuf Afrisheni. Am Merk verkaufen und mit da verkaufen a Beisa Knesses, einzelne Tag in ander Weg, a Fuchbo in a Mikve, wo sie wird aufstellen, der ist zu hören bei Israel.
When I wasn't commenting on progress, the Rebbe, I got it settled, Ma'im HaMikveh, like what's doing with the mikveh. And the Rebbe said that he will give the last third of the cost. And we pushed ahead about it, we had it built. There are a number of people who had children as a result, who had difficulty with children, and they had brachas that they used the mikveh.
Ich sag, hier du, als der Rebbe der Bala Giulo ist weg, hat nem verschickt in a zwei Stadt Kastramat. Und die Unione, was dort missaken gewesen, was sich dort gelernt und gedauert und gegeben Zdok und getan, kamen wie kamen Mitzvahs. Und das aber, was sie gewähnt, verbunden mit dem Mord. Und mit den Jiden, was in jenem Mord, wo uns lieb der Ruf in die Gewähnt in anderen Weg, seit soll hinzukommen, ist das gewähnt auch der Ingen von dort mit aufstellenden Minien am Mikve, soll sein, wie es darf zu sein, sollen geboren werden, koschere jüdische Kinder.
I was in Japan on business, and my father-in-law must have mentioned to the Rebbe that I was in Tokyo and that I would be there for Shabbos. I had a phone call at my hotel from Rabbi Beryl Levy of the OK. He said, I'm in the Philippines on Hashgacha matters. The Rebbe asked that I call you. He knows you're in Tokyo, and he said, Minstam and Shabbos, you'll go to the Tokyo Jewish community. And the Rebbe is very concerned that they are planning on building a new shul, and there is some disagreement among the people as to whether they're going to include a mikveh in the new building. The Rebbe said, Minstam, while you're there, you'll give tzedakah. And the Rebbe said he wants to be shutfus with you in your tzedakah. And the Rebbe asked that if you would make clear that the tzedakah is for the new mikveh, and if you could write a letter to the members of the Kehillah about the importance of mikveh, and that you are making a contribution in your name in partners with the Lubavitcher Rebbe.
My Uncle Max Schreiber over Shalom used to be able to make phones in Eretz Israel. Schreiber? Yeah. Right. So I'm his nephew, David Schreiber.
Since he passed away,
Yes.
there is no one that has taken his place.
That's true.
Then you are recorded.
I built a mikveh in Woodmere. In our
He was
community.
not satisfied about your own mikveh. His was much more. Then they try at least the first 10.
First 10 that ever says.
Okay.
Yeah, and God will much bless you.
Okay.
I'll give you $10 for the 10 mikvehs. It is not enough to cover of the expense of the mikveh, and the rest they will depend. Bracha v'atzlacha.
Rabbi Benjamin Klein called me up. The Rebbe said, the inyan of a mikveh in Long Beach is very important. I have instructed to send you a check of $1,000 special delivery, Asker Alatzin. Now, in Long Beach, California, in 1973, mikveh was not a household word, but Reb Moshe Yosef Engel, who worked hard as a teacher, he threw himself into it, heart and soul.
We brought in consultants and we built up a beautiful mikveh, not knowing why and for who. At the open house, a lady that at that time was not observant at all wrote a letter to the Jewish newspaper. I walked into this open house to the mikveh. There were 140 people. It looked like a spa. They explained what mikveh was all about. It's such a beautiful idea. And she challenged the Jewish community to go and see the mikveh.
Binyan am mikveh, sollen sein Mehude Beruchnis und Nechit und Nahikel Godel, Echit und Jefich Zeni, Vater das kon Chas v'Sholem abhalten. A Jiden von Mekaim sein unter die Mitzvah, Kol Poni von Mekaim sein nicht Beito bis Mano, wo der Pfarrer die Stadlos Achig Dele gewähren allemal und Nechit Titzter, a was eis vielen Echit dem Jefich Zeni, We
got calls from different places. Can we see your blueprints, how you build a mikveh? And we made 50 copies, and we figured this is going to last forever. We had to make more copies to send it out to different mikvahs.
We started getting calls and letters from everywhere you can dream of. We send out a package to all over America. And it said how to do it, how we did it, how we're going around publicizing it.
Rebbe's vision was once again proven to be spot on, as they say.
It literally created a revival of mikvahs throughout America.
Thank you very much for bringing an additional mikveh. My pleasure. My pleasure. People, and that's what all the Jewish people will be happy about it. And as it said in Talmud, every additional mikveh is accelerating the Bias Mashiach system, the arrival of the Mashiach system. Amen.
Thank you, everyone, to our amazing speakers and to our amazing back end, Heavy Marks. Thank you. We don't see you, but I know you're there. And thank you for supporting us tonight and helping. And thank you for everyone who joined in and gave us an amazing panel to speak to. And it gives momentum. And each one of us has.
Thank you, Shirley, for doing this.
Like Sarah Karmely said, now it's your project. Find a friend, find someone you know, and pass along the information, pass along the recording. I put on the chat the YouTube link that will have the recording of this class. So if you share that link, it'll have the recording. I will edit it a little bit to cut from the beginning, but it still will have the class. And we will merit to bring Mashiach. So Be'ezrat Hashem, may we do this again on other topics and join only in Simchas. So thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Thank you for joining us.
I have charts. If anybody needs charts or anything, I'll be happy to share it with them if they need charts to choose.
I just posted, we posted your number before on the chat. I will post it again. So everyone can, yeah, so Sarah Karmely is very, very available to everyone, and this is very rare. Not everyone has time today and everyone is so busy, but Sarah Karmely says call her, she will give the information. This is a real gift.
Shirley, you're a gift. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. I'm going to keep the Zoom on for a few more minutes so you can look at the chat. If anybody wants to say something, please unmute yourself. You could say it. We'll be happy to hear you. Ayelet, I can't believe you were on. I just saw your name. Amazing. Sarah, that was amazing.
Thank you. Also, you're amazing. We'll have good news. We'll have good news, B'ezrat Hashem.
Shelly,
Hi, Shelly. How are you?
I'm doing well. I miss you. We miss you.
I know. I miss you guys too. You see me. You're here. Hi. I can't believe it. Everyone got so big.
Yeah, I know. I don't know if you know. I just had a baby. I think I sent you the pictures. Her name is Karmely.
Oh, amazing.
Lewis, after my father and mother.
Wow, beautiful. Mazel tov.
Carmela, Mrs. Carmela, thank you so much. That was touching. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. So with all my heart,
I felt it, and it was beautiful, gorgeous.
Thank you. God bless you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Baruch Hashem, we got to meet virtually.
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, Laila Tov, everyone.
Laila Tov, everyone.
Baruch Hashem.
Okay, everyone, we're going to let everyone go to rest. Have a good night. Mashiach now.
Amen. Amen.
May we meet in Yerushalayim.
Amen. That's it.
All right, until next time, we're in Yerushalayim. Bye. Good night.
Good
Thank
night.
you, everyone.